Hey everybody, this is Crowmar with TGN, and I'm here today to bring you another World of Warcraft Cataclysm video. Today we're looking at Intellect gear. This is Let's Get Heroic Episode 4, and by Intellect gear, of course, I mean caster gear that does not have Spirit on it for your offensive casters and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at what we have. Now this gear is also usable by healers, it just lacks Spirit, which is your best stat, so you can use it as a transitional item while you're trying to get geared properly for heroics. You know, the free ones anyway. So anyway, I'm going to start with weapons. Now, of course, you can go to the Crucible of Carnage in Twilight Highlands to get your 333 basic weapon, as it goes for every class. But if you're ready for a better weapon, your best bet is still to go to the Conquest Quartermaster, because after just 2 weeks of Arena, you can pick up the Gladiator Spellblade. This is just the most spell power that you're going to get on a one-hander. You can also get a two-hander, although it does take 3 weeks. You can get the Vicious Gladiator's Battle Staff here. I definitely recommend getting the one-hander though, and the reason is that there's an enchant for your offhand item plus 100 intellect to offhand, which is a crazy overpowered enchant, better than anything else you can get on any other weapon. Seriously, it's insane. So you absolutely do want to go the one-hander route as a DPS caster, and as a healer, it's not a bad idea either. I mean, it's a heck of an enchant. It's a lot of mana and it's a lot of spell power, so you might as well take that. Now, for your offhand item, we're going to go to the auction house here. And we're going to look at some of these options. You're definitely going to want to buy your offhand. At ilevel 346, you got the Dungeoneering Guide, which scribes actually make to level up, so it should be pretty cheap. On my server, about 1,000 gold is reasonable, but you can also get the cheaper one, if I can find it here, if they have one here. Yeah, there we go. The Book of Blood is the cheap one, but it costs almost nothing. But I would just go ahead and spring for the 346, because it's only 1,000 gold, and it's such a huge upgrade, especially once you get that offhand enchant put on it. Next, we're going to take a look at relics. And again, you're going to want to buy a relic. Now, the level 85s are vastly overpriced for Tattooed Eyeball because this is such a crappy slot. There's hardly any stats on it, although there is a gem. So you might want to consider the Tattooed Eyeball, but look at 5,000 gold, and that's not uncommon. You might be able to get it cheaper. You might be able to find a scribe willing to do it because they do make it to level up, but it just costs, the mats on this are ridiculous. So if you don't want to spring for that, you can simply get the Manual of the Plains, which is also from Inscription, but it's a low level, very cheap, and you'll find scribes making this to level up as well. So as you can see, it costs nothing, so you should have this as a bare minimum. Next, we're going to look at wands. There's just not a lot of good options here, and there's really no other places that give you wands other than the auction house and random drops. So what you're going to want to do is just buy a green or this blue right here maybe, Wand of Dark Worship. There's always a ton of these in here. But again, wand is not a very important slot either, so just get the bare minimum you can get for cheap and get onto the more important slots. Next, for all you shield users, you can use the plus 100 on your shield as well. So what you want to do is get the Stormforged shield from Blacksmithing. Costs next to nothing, just a couple hundred gold, and it's pretty decent. It's a 325, very good for a green, and you might not find one in the auction house because they're not profitable. But you can find a blacksmith and they'll make one for you for cheap. There's still a couple more items from the auction house I want to show you here. You're going to want to get your neck from here. The Charm of the Muse is your best bet. It's a 333 and it's fairly cheap. 600 gold, that's not bad on my server right now, but it can vary a lot obviously. This is only one. And if there's not one available, you might want to get just one of these Nightstone ones because it's only 325, not a big difference. And this is another one that actually jewel crafters make to level. So there's going to be a ton of these in the auction house. I mean, if you just look through, you'll find something that fits your stat spread. Like here's a Intellect Haste Mastery. That's perfectly good for like 300 gold. So lots of good options for necks for cheap. And for our last auction house item, we're getting on to actual armor pieces. There is Cloth Hood. You should find plenty of these in here. Spiritmend Cowl is 333 for cheap. Tailors make it to level, and it's a great item. So you'll definitely want to grab that. Okay, so that's it for the auction house and the very easy to get items, or the freebie items. So let's move on to reputations. We're going to go through our reputations one by one. Let's start with Hyjal. In Hyjal, there's only one item for Int, and that's your leather gloves for druids. However, you also get the Arcanum for Int here from Mount Hyjal. So that's definitely something you want to get. You want to definitely get revered with Hyjal as soon as you can, for no matter what class you are. Next up, let's go to Vashj'ir and look at the Earthen Ring. We've got 3 items at Earthen Ring. The first one we have is this cloth head. Now this, of course, is in addition to the Spiritmend Cowl that we talked about before. So if you'd rather have this one for the stats, for the gems, or whatever, then you certainly can get this one. It's only 31 gold. It might be even a better option than Spiritmend. The only reason I mentioned Spiritmend is that you can get it from the auction house without even going to Vashtir. Now, for the cape, we have an excellent 346 cape with Revered. This is definitely your best option for your cape. And then we have one last one in the epics for Exalted. We have a very nice gloves option for cloth. Next, we're going to Deep Home for Therazane faction. Over at Therazane's throne, let's see what we have available here. We, of course, have the shoulder enchants, which is for everyone. Here's your shoulder enchant here, Intellect and Haste. Then for the ring, we have Diamant's Ring of Temperance, which is your excellent caster ring at 346. And, of course, Therazane not only gives the shoulder enchants for all, but he gives the rings for everything except for Spirit. And the best part is that you're actually going to get Revered with them just from doing quests and maybe 1 or 2 dailies worth. I think is what it took me, was just 2. So this is obviously a very good and very easy faction to get Revered with. Our next faction is going to be Twilight Highlands. Now Twilight Highlands, of course, is your Dragonmaw and Wildhammer reputation. Dragonmaw is for Horde, Wildhammer is for Alliance. So let's check out what we have here. We've got 3 items for Dragonmaw Wildhammer. This is your 333 cloth hand for your clothies there. Then we have a 346 ring as well for Revered. And lastly, we have Exalted, a 359 neck. And for our last faction, we have the Cat People in Uldum. For Romkahen, we only have 2 items. We have the Robes of Orsis, which is just a great chest cloth. And for Exalted, we have some nice cloth feet. Now, there's other good options for both of those slots, for feet and for chest, for a 333 that are even easier to get. So you might want to consider as Romkahen as your last reputation to grind. You might want to work the other ones first. So that's all for reputations. We're going to move on now to quest rewards. There's a ton of them, and these are going to fill out the rest of the slots here. We've got dungeon quest rewards first. There's 1 from Grimbatol, 1 from Hall's Origination, and 1 from Lost City. These are all cloth, feet, wrist, and shoulders, and they're all 333s. You just get them from the quest you get from the front of the entrance. So all you got to do is run these 1 time, and you'll get these items guaranteed. Next, we have Traitor's Bait or Villain Unmasked. That's the Horde and Alliance version of this quest, respectively. This is the introduction quest for Twilight Highlands, actually. You don't even have to go there. So as soon as you hit 84, you can do this quest, and you can get these items. And there's not 1, not 2, but 3 items from this quest reward that are for offensive casters. Matter of fact, everything in that quest reward is from offensive casters, except for 1 lone tanking shield. So this is obviously definitely the quest you want to do, no matter which class you are, and you'll get 1 item from there. Next, we have Uldum quests. These are done just as from the normal Uldum quest line. I believe 1 is from Firing Squad, that's the Trinket, and the others are from Gnome Obliteration and Harrison Jones in the Temple of Uldum, so it's all the way at the very end. But you want to complete those anyway because those are really fun. So regardless, you want to do all the Uldum quests. And lastly, Twilight Highlands quest. You have 4 from Twilight Highlands from miscellaneous quests. The Harmlight token is the Horde version. The Alliance version is slightly different, but it's essentially the same thing. It's still an intellect trinket with a proc, so it's the same difference. Now, all of these come from random quests in Twilight Highlands. One of them is from Skullcrusher the Mountain, which is the last quest in the chain, and everything else is just from in between. So you'll get all these items just by completing all of Twilight Highlands, which you should be doing anyway for your Dragonmaw rep or your Wildhammer rep. Well, that's it for all the items you can get for all the slots. Now, I didn't do a big fancy graphic like I did with the Spirit one, only because there's just not that many slots left. Everything's been filled just by reputations and quests. It's a lot simpler, in other words, than it was for the Spirit gear. So, however, there are some empty slots still as leather or mail. You'll notice that you didn't get too much in leather or mail. So what are you going to do about those slots? Well, keep in mind that as an Elemental Shaman or Boomkin, you have the option of simply wearing Spirit Gear. Spirit Gear does give you hit if you're one of those 2 classes, also Shadow Priest. But you don't need that because there's plenty of non-Spirit Gear around for Shadow Priests. So as a Boomkin or an Elemental Shaman, you can just get the Spirit Gear until you get to your hit cap, but don't go over your hit cap because that'll be a waste. There's also very limited options for Justice Points. I think there's only 1 Justice Point item. That's for Druids and nothing for Shamans, which is weird. I don't know why that is. They put Justice Points in for everything except for Offensive Caster, I guess. So you can't get much done there. If you do have spare Justice points, nothing to spend them on, you don't want to spend them on your healing alt, or your healing alt spec, I should say, then what you can do is simply spend those points on the neck piece or whatnot, you know, just to make it easier to get those slots. Well, that does it for Let's Get Heroic Episode 4, Intellect Gear. My name is Cromar. Thank you for watching. As always, please rate, please comment, and please subscribe.